Hello and welcome back to the Quiet Part Podcast. My name is Chris. How's everybody doing? We got a day full of stories, some interesting, some that I just kind of picked up and said, you know what, this seems interesting. And I'm probably going to be wrong. But joining me to discuss these stories and more is, of course, Michael. Michael, how you doing?
Hello. I'm doing fantastic. Just had an awesome meal I made, home cooked everything from scratch, the way it should be.
That's right. Everyone should do this. That's part of the, get fit, eat healthy stuff that Michael mentions at the end of every episode.
That's right.
So, you had a couple days off. How's the weather where you're at? Has it got
Cold.
crazy yet?
Cold. It's like 50 degrees. I'm freezing. It's
Really?
a
Oh
completely different than Florida, that's for sure. So,
man,
um,
it was 50 degrees here today, and we were thrilled about that because it was 50 yesterday as well. But we had 30 to 40 miles sustained winds and up to 60-mile-an-hour gusts. So it doesn't feel like 50.
mm. Well, I am acclimating. As you can see, I'm wearing a t-shirt now. But
Well, I wear a hoodie all the time, so I mean, that's just normal for me. I can do that up to about 70 degrees.
the
And
Fetterman fit.
what's that?
The Fetterman fit.
That's right. I got the bald head, I got the beard. I wear the gym shorts and the hoodie. Maybe I'll be senator next.
That's right.
I just don't want to have the stroke to get me over the finish line on that.
That's true. That would be horrible.
Anyway, what do you say we get into some news here?
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, and I failed. I have failed you, Michael.
Uh-oh.
I was not prepared. Please forgive me. All right, here we go. Walgreens livid as Democrat policies destroy business. Refusal to arrest criminals is crushing sales.
Yep. I mean, we've said it before, right? You give an inch, they take a mile. All these policies have done in places like California it has incentivized criminals to do more, to commit more theft, to commit more break-ins. And when that kind of crime is left to go unfettered, other crimes start to escalate as well. Violence, for example, they get to a point, I would imagine, over the course of time that they feel entitled to go and steal stuff because they've never been challenged and they've never been held to account. So I'm not surprised that, so many retail businesses are closing their doors in California and in other places. I believe Washington's pretty bad too. Seattle, Portland, a lot of the West Coast. And it is precisely because they're deciding not to charge even for petty theft and for theft from stores and other minor crime.
Well, absolutely. I mean, but this goes further than that even. Because, when Walgreens has to lock up their stuff, and Tim talks about this a little bit when he goes into the segment, and he goes, I was in Arizona and he had a hangnail. He needed a pair of nail clippers, and he went in. It's a locked up item, right? Because why wouldn't they be? And he basically got to the point where I'm not going to go bother somebody to unlock this so I can get some fingernail clippers. I'm just going to deal with it. Because
Right.
is it worth bothering somebody to get the $2 item that somebody's apparently stealing for no reason?
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, right there, that an inconvenience to the consumer is that it now takes more time. The store likely has to staff more people to facilitate opening all these cages for the products. And it has the opposite effect with respect to liability. Now, if someone wants to steal something, they have to go get an employee to basically stand next to them when they do it.
Yeah.
Just
Well, there was an interesting point in this segment. I'm going to pull it up here because I found it to be truly mind-boggling. So this is from the article. During the earnings call on Friday, executives reported a 52% increase in shrink. They saw a 50% increase in stolen items after locking everything up. Make that make sense, Michael.
It doesn't make sense.
If the measures you're taking to prevent theft are increasing theft, shouldn't you just go back to what you were doing before? And why does it take until an earnings call a year later from taking these measures to actually go, you know what, maybe that was a bad idea?
Yeah. No, it's just, that is the unfortunate reality. I would say, I often ask myself throughout anything that I do, when I face adversity, when I face a problem and I have to solve it, and then I ponder the idea of like how bad it would have to get before I did something that maybe would be tiptoeing on the line of what my principles are. Right? We see this in Congress. We see Massey, like hard struck all the time, does not waver. And then I always, in the past, I've always presented to the chat and everybody, that question, like if you were in church praying and a bunch of men with guns came in and held a gun to your head and asked you if you believed in God. If you said no, they would let you go. If you said yes, they would shoot you. Like, what do you say? Right? Do you say yes and know that you're going to die in that moment? And I think these businesses have to do something similar with respect to their profits and the nature to which they do business. They obviously are having their bottom line hurt by the fact that these counties and governments aren't doing them or rather the favor that they require, what is required of the government rather, to enforce the law and prevent these thefts from happening. So instead of spending all this money to lock stuff behind cages with it ultimately not working in the first place, pull your business out. Take that minor hit. It's controlled because you're making that deliberate decision to close the doors and pull out. And when the community starts noticing that it's much harder to acquire certain goods or that the price of goods go up because there's less places to get them, maybe they'll start voting differently and change the culture within their communities.
Now, the question then would be, okay, I completely agree and understand that entire point. But the question is, once these companies decide to do this, it's their business decision to pull out of these places because, whether it's theft, whether it's safety, doesn't matter. They pull out. What does it take for them to then say in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whenever things get sorted again, to say, you know what, we can go back into these communities? Do they ever get to that point?
Probably not. I mean, what good would it do, right? Because if Walgreens has 100 stores in California, I think they definitely have more than that, but just
probably
bear with me. And they decide to make an executive decision at a corporate level to pull all of the just no longer, we're not doing business in California because of the crime. We have our stuff stolen. We're not making profit. It becomes a liability if one of our employees gets hurt. That costs way more money. Now they're getting rid of the property. Maybe, right? It would really depend on the business and what they decide to do. If it was me and I knew that we could float the cost of just holding on to those physical assets, like the buildings themselves, turn the water off, turn the power off, empty the store of product, and just keep paying rent or whatever, taxes on the building. And then if changes happen, you can open it back up. But how much is it going to cost 10 years from now to repurchase property and restock the store and rehire all the employees? And what does that even look like? So from a business perspective, if you pull out, I don't even know. I'm just going to sit with a settled 50-50 that they ever come back.
Yeah, they're not going to retain those properties. They're not going to shut things off because the simple fact remains you can shut off all the utilities, you can empty the store, you can keep all the shelving in there.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance will not allow you to do that because people are going to break in, they're going to damage it. You're going to lose even in that regard, and then
Yeah.
your insurance company isn't going to allow you to do that. They're going to say this is an unnecessary risk, and we're not going to insure that property.
Yeah.
I don't know. This it speaks to not just that, but in these same places where these exact same policies are existing right now, you know, we go on to talk about we're imposing new minimum wages, $20 minimum wage. That was a big part of the segment, mind you.
Yeah.
Small businesses are now facing this as of January 1st, and I forget either Washington or Oregon, I can't remember. And they're closing. And you're not talking about a business that started up a year ago, 2 years ago. There were some that were 40-year-old businesses. They have survived through major economic cycles already. And you get to $20 an hour, and I have to pay my employees this.
Mm-hmm.
It's unsustainable because what that mandated minimum wage does is, yeah, it might make you feel good that, hey, we're paying people more. Most of these businesses aren't operating like a Walgreens or a big chain where they have a couple $100 million in operating capital to cover extra months until your price increases can kick in and pay for that additional cost.
Right.
You're talking about Michael, me sitting there going, all right, this is my primary source of income. I make exactly this much a year in profit. I don't have $500,000 of operating capital laying around for me to cover this. It does not help.
And there's ways to go about making sure that your business doesn't go under with those changes, but now we're talking about, and I would say maybe even just 20 years ago it would work, right? Let's say you've got 10 employees and now you're required to pay each one of them $3 more an hour. Well, my solution would be, sorry, Bob and Fred, you're the least performing employees and you're getting let go. It's not a firing, you're just being let go because we can't afford to pay your wage. Then you increase the wage of everyone else, but then the consequence of that is now everyone else that's still with the company has more responsibility. And in today's day and age, especially those idiots out in California, you can't expect them to go above and beyond for more than what they think they're worth. That's not what people do anymore. The entire labor market. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I say, why would they? You literally just demonstrated that a little bit more of an economic downturn, so to speak, they're expendable now too.
Yep. So it's a shitty thing, and anyone who says that it's a good thing doesn't understand anything. They've never been in a management position with a business, whether a corporate business or a small business. Labor is king when it comes to expenses and overhead for any company. In almost every single market, labor cost is overwhelmingly the highest amount of expenditures for a business. When I say labor cost, I don't mean like throwing a hammer, but literally just having employees and having to pay their wage. They're working, you have to pay them. And there's never been an easy solution to navigate the nature of labor and what people expect to be paid, what you can offer, because in order to be a competitive business in whatever field you're in, you have to offer a decent wage so that people will even come work for you. But you can't offer them too much because then your overhead increases and you might not be turning a profit to facilitate covering that. And so all this change did by increasing the minimum wage is put immense pressure on the bookholders of all these small businesses that can no longer continue to thrive as a business, and will have to either start firing people, drawing back, maybe selling property, or just completely selling the business altogether.
But that fits really nicely into the global agenda of, you're going to go live in the pods, eat the bugs, and like it. Because as a small business owner, you're a thorn in the side of that whole notion. We don't want you to have the agency of owning your own business and controlling your own destiny, so to speak. We want you instead to be dependent upon us. And it just sounds weird when I say that, but that's what these policies lead to. They want you to fail. Because then daddy government can come in and say, hey, we'll help you out. It was a raw deal. We're sorry that this had to happen, but you couldn't keep doing what you were doing. We couldn't allow it.
Right.
Well, you ready for some more daddy government talk?
Oh boy, here we go.
Supreme Court upholds the ban of TikTok in a unanimous decision. The Supreme Court says TikTok must divest from China.
Good.
Now, I like probably a great number of people were actually surprised that this was a unanimous decision.
Now, was it unanimous with all judges, or did some abstain?
All of them, as far as I've been made aware. It was a 9-0 decision. And one of the liberal justices actually wrote a concurring opinion.
Oh, interesting.
So why does this matter? Well, last April, the Congress passed a law saying you cannot be China and own this business for social media. There's national security implications, et cetera, et cetera. This has been talked about for a few years. Donald Trump was all for this ban until late last year, where, they started not censoring certain voices, I guess, that were happy for Trump. And Trump did well among a certain demographic due to this. Well, if I'm remembering correctly, and Michael, you're good at holding me to my memories. When they passed that in Congress and Joe Biden signed it, it had a 6-month window in which they either had to find somebody to buy it or they had to shut it down.
Yep. 180 days.
Yeah, that was in April. We've passed this, haven't we?
We have.
It makes it interesting. Now, this is where it gets really weird. So at that 180-day mark, the Biden administration said, well, we're not going to actually enforce this.
Well, I think there was stipulations too in the bill that literally said that there was another step and process to which the government would take, right? And that, once the 180 days hit, then it was up to the federal government to make a decision. And I don't remember specifically what the guidelines were, but, it was, I think, a few more sections in that bill after that point.
Oh, probably. Now, it gets interesting, like I said, because after the election, Donald Trump figures out TikTok is good for him in this instance. And he started saying, no, we should not ban them. They should still be allowed to do it. In fact, the CEO of ByteDance is being invited to the inauguration to sit up there as Trump is inaugurated. Why is that? It's because Trump wants to show his support for this to not be the case. And that's why it was presented to the Supreme Court like this. Are we going to do the thing? And is it in our best interest? Clearly, as the Supreme Court's decision proves, The lawyers for banning it actually laid out their case as a national security threat perfectly. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a unanimous decision in this way.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine at this point, another 180-day time frame is implemented with respect to the decision by the Supreme Court for them to find a buyer here in the United States.
Well, I don't think that's what's going to happen.
No?
I think they're literally saying on Sunday they have to either shut it down or have that buyer in place. Now, it gets more interesting because whether or not Donald Trump can actually do something when he gets in office on Monday and say, "Hey, we're just not enforcing this law," because that is being talked about. There are ramifications for the third parties that are ancillary to this. You have things that are going to go on for Google and Apple because they provide the app and support for said app. There's penalties involved for them.
Yep.
And that's where it gets really interesting. Yes, ByteDance could divest from it. Yesterday we saw Mr. Beast apparently was talking about buying TikTok. I don't know. I don't know how much money Mr. Beast has, but I don't think he has enough for that. But it was an interesting thought.
No, I would argue it's more than what TikTok was or Twitter was valued at for Elon Musk.
I think people were saying, from what I saw, their valuation is somewhere between 40 and 50 billion at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
There's going to be so many people are addicted to social media, especially TikTok, where you can just flip through little videos all day. What are they going to do? They spend half their day doing that.
Oh yeah, that's why I don't use TikTok.
What they're gonna oh dude, it's gonna be hilarious. Honestly, I'm all for it.
I had TikTok several years ago, especially when I was unemployed anyway. And I went through like several days of this, but I removed it from my phone simply because, I would say, all right, I got a few minutes. Let's watch a couple things. Then 2 hours later, I'm like, oh shit, I'm still doing this. TikTok's algorithm is top notch and providing you exactly what you're looking for. I don't know of any other social media platform that does it as well as they do in that regard. And that's another part of this. Even if Donald Trump were able to, stave this off, even if they were to divest, which they're indicating they don't intend to, they just plan on shutting it down. Because it's going to send a message. Hey, Michael, you're a creator on TikTok. You're making good money, but I'm sorry, you live in the U.S. and your government says you can't do this anymore.
Right, and that's where my headspace is going next with this, because how many people have made posting to TikTok their livelihood? Their home, their car payments and insurance are all funded by the posts that they make on TikTok. They're fucked. They're screwed. I mean, could they use another platform? Sure, but if it's this abrupt, and they haven't had time to plan, I wonder how TikTok internally as a company is handling all the contracts they have with all these people. What happens to their contracts? TikTok will sign people for a year to basically propagate. And what happens to a contract that hasn't been fulfilled yet? What happens to I'm sure, million people? Well, I guess it's only the United States. So however many people it is in the United States.
Million. It's like almost 170 million, they said. Now, I don't know how many of them are actually creators, but these are users.
Right.
But there's still a lot.
But it circles back to one of my major points, and that is TikTok a threat? I think so. Yes, 150%. I think that it is in part responsible for the social degradation that we see in society, and it should be owned and operated by a company that we can hold accountable through courts and law. And if the owners of TikTok, ByteDance, don't want to do that, then some hardship. Everybody that uses TikTok, we're sorry, but we're putting our foot down now. We're taking some stuff seriously, and we are going to make sure that Americans are safe and that they have a more even playing field with respect to the. Sorry, and he's freaking out. The neighbor dog is barking. But yeah, I'm for it happening because I don't think that a company with as much power as TikTok should be owned by one of our adversaries. It's that simple. And there's a whole plethora of reasons, but we don't have to necessarily get into that.
No.
I'm all for, my saying, Chris, I wish the internet and electricity would all shut off for a year and everyone had to fend for themselves and actually work hard for something. TikTok is just a life lesson for people, basically.
Well, there's a lot of people, these creators, and these creators do know this. You have Instagram, you have YouTube Shorts. You're already filming it in that style. That's what these things are made for. They were made in response to TikTok's success, mind you. So you can move to that. Now, many of the top ones are already doing all three places because that's how you maximize your revenue. But that's not to say TikTok won't still be, being shut off. It won't hurt them. It's going to be a problem for them.
Yeah, it will.
So, and then as Shane is saying, they're going to hit the Instagram and YouTube Shorts. Stats show there's going to be over 1 billion in losses within a month.
And that's from the actual content creators.
Yep.
Yeah. See, this is why you need to just get a real job. Go learn how to plumb or mow the grass or something.
Yeah, go find those shovel ready jobs.
Get a real skill. Baking a cake half naked isn't a skill. It's manipulation.
There's an issue with those who use TikTok Marketplace to sell their products. That's another thing.
That's a fair issue. I would urge every single one of them. I mean, I don't know how much time is left to maybe check out Public Square.
There you go. We don't have a Public Square sponsorship, Michael. I'm just saying.
Oh, that was a freebie.
Yeah, but that does remind me, guys. If you like what we're doing here, you want to see more of us, like, comment, subscribe, go do all the things on YouTube. Go visit us on Rumble. Go visit us on X. It doesn't really matter as long as you're coming to find us in those places, because we do want to keep providing this content. We want to hear from you, and it's a way for you to interact with us. So there's our shameless plug. All right. Well, that gets us to the end of, our main segments. It is what it is, but we know that you guys want more from us. You expect more from us. And I think we might have gotten a little bit of it covered. All right. We got Pop Culture Crisis. We haven't talked too much about them this week. We have a couple of minutes here and there, but it is part of our basis of doing this show. And there was one thing in here that stood out. Trump's Hollywood ambassadors. Michael, have you heard of Trump's Hollywood ambassadors?
I have not. I honestly I couldn't even name the actor, like the main protagonist in like my favorite movie, or even what the favorite movie's name was, because I forgot.
This is probably a good thing. Let me pull them up. We're doing it live, guys. All right. Let's see here. It is my honor to announce Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone to be special ambassadors to a great but very troubled place, Hollywood, California. They will serve as special envoys to me for the purpose of bringing Hollywood, which has lost much business over the last 4 years to foreign countries, back bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. These three very talented people will be my eyes and ears, and I will get done what they suggest. It will again be like the United States of America itself, the golden age of Hollywood. Now, I find this to be hilarious and good at the same time. Okay. Those three names, Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Stallone, these three men are pretty much uncancelable in Hollywood. They've developed their careers to a certain point where it does not matter what opinions they put out there. If it goes against the social narrative, they're still going to be cast in roles. People want to see these people. You know, so good choices. And the other thing, they have more or less throughout their careers been more openly conservative, so that helps a little bit. But it's interesting. I don't know to what extent we've ever wanted to consider our Hollywood actors as ambassadors to something like that. I think I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. When it comes to actors endorsing a political candidate, I don't care.
Right.
Their opinion means nothing to me unless they can sing and dance on a screen. I don't need them. So this just really, goes against my whole line of thinking. I don't really care what they have to say about the industry.
I think here's where I think Trump is going with this. We know Trump pretty well. He likes to label stuff and name it, right? Like Space Force and External Revenue Service. So what it sounds like is he's picked three very predominant actors throughout the years, have been overwhelmingly successful in this field in Hollywood. And at first I'm thinking, who the hell in Hollywood would go and talk to these people now if they think that they're just going to report back to Trump? What I think is it's actually on purpose, right? It's precisely for that. Someone in Hollywood, maybe a lesser known actor or actress who has certain begrudges or opinions about certain things and how things operate and what regulations or policies might help them do better with their work, can now rely on any of these three men to relay that information to Donald Trump. Instead of having to try to get in touch with Donald Trump, who will be an acting president, right? It's going to be much more difficult to just call Trump on the phone. They can communicate with Mel Gibson or Sylvester Stallone on bringing about change to help that particular industry and to help the I would just say art culture in America. This is actually, I think, a really amazing first step in the direction of, seizing and taking back control of cultural development from the media and fictional space. So we make movies now, and we always complain about all the movies from Disney and whatever, they're super woke. Well, perhaps maybe this is the beginning of an effort to sort of change that direction. And while we have this front, which is new, we also have Angel Studios and all these other different avenues of approach that are slowly taking place. And as Tim says a lot in his segments, and I personally agree, and I'm sure you do too, Chris, it's about winning those battles, right? It's a long-winded war. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but winning the battle it's a victory. So the success of Angel Studios, I forget the name of the movie, about sex trafficking. like that's a big cultural win.
Oh yeah,
for the
I
studio
can't
and
even
for the
remember the
country.
name. I know what you're talking about, though. I don't remember the name,
Yeah.
and that's terrible of me. But it is what it is.
I mean, I watched a TV show once, so.
Sound of Freedom.
There we go.
Thank you,
There's
Shane. And just so we give credit, Shane gave us this answer, guys.
That's right.
All right. Well, I mean, I can't say any more than you just did because you kind of hit the nail on the head. Excuse me here. This is where, we have to kind of improvise a little bit, Michael. There's so much going on in the world every day that we don't cover, and sometimes we get to choose what we're going to cover. There is, as I'm going to start with, Shane said this at the very beginning of the show. The inauguration is moved indoors because it is only going to be 15 degrees in DC. And that's the displayed temperature. That's not going to be the actual real field temperature, mind you. It's going to be sub-zero. And yeah, that's you don't want people standing outside in the National Mall. You don't want all of your representatives being there. And this makes sense. Not just because of the cold. As Michael, you pointed out earlier, why else would it make sense to move this inside?
Security. I mean, just first and foremost, it's more secure to do the event inside, but at least secure from the perspective of what people have already tried to do to Trump already, which was shoot them with the rifle in a big open space. That'll be less plausible inside. So I mean, it could literally just be that, like, the excuse is the cold. The real reason is security. I think that's a reasonable thing, but nonetheless, it's inside now. I'm not sure what difference it really makes. It's the inauguration. The whole weekend has got a bunch of events. The crypto ball's taking place tonight. So
very nice. How's your crypto doing?
Phenomenal. XRP is just doing exactly what I predicted. I hope you held on to it, Chris.
I'm ashamed to admit I ran into a bit of financial difficulty a little while back. I had to divest. I had to. And I did it when it was actually down from what I bought it at. So that sucked already. But then I looked at the price here yesterday and I'm like, 350. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yep.
Now I knew full well that, it was going to go up. This is on me. It doesn't mean I'm out of the game. No, I'm going to start filling it back up again and, try to move forward. XRP is still going to do some great things. And just because it's gone up from what I originally lost at doesn't mean I can't be back in it.
Right. But yeah, this inauguration, I'm sure it'll be great. Trump's got a lot of special guests doing certain things. Carrie Underwood. I'm sure it'll be great. What I'm most interested in, though, is not the extravaganza, but what he does the moment it's over and he starts signing executive orders. Which ones are those going to be? I want to know this for a multitude of reasons. Everything from which stocks to start purchasing to maybe the job market, since I'm currently unemployed and I'm looking for work. And like what it's going to do for regulations and policy. What is his day one agenda, and what are these executive orders that he's going to sign? Is it going to be fracking? It's going to be energy based. What are we looking at? And then also,
he can be a dictator. We know that.
Yeah. So, you know what? I understand. Dictators just generally are bad, but throughout the course of history, there's been at least one good dictator, and that was Mr. Tito, President Tito. And I say that somewhat jokingly. He was a kind and generous man, and he wasn't like a violent, vicious dictator, though he was a dictator, and dictators are bad.
Yeah, he broke the mold.
Yeah. I want to see what Trump's planning on doing with crypto, right? Because that's one of the next big I think news cycles over the next few weeks. I think he's planning on signing some pretty hefty executive orders to start the process of creating policy and regulation for cryptocurrency, positive regulation that'll incentivize innovation and protect consumers. It's something that we're kind of lacking right now, and we saw it with that Haktua pump and dump that people got scammed on. And I think that's made evident by the fact that he's literally hosting and I think he's speaking too at a special ball they're doing tonight in Washington, D.C. for cryptocurrency. All the major crypto creators and businesses like the Ripple CEO, they're all there right now, all talking amongst each other about how to move crypto forward at a federal level. Donald Trump has come out and said after meetings with some of these CEOs that he's interested in creating federal reserves, not just for Bitcoin, but for other altcoins as well. And so I'd hate to go off on too long of a tangent about cryptocurrency. XRP appears to be in the spotlight because it has developed and designed its entire ecosystem and coin around being regulated in the first place. It's already predisposed to be regulated, which means it's going to be regulated sooner than all these other coins that have to reprogram so that they can meet those expectations. And then on a global scale, they're being picked up by the SWIFT network to be the cryptocurrency used for international transactions. So I think there's a big play from the Trump administration with crypto. I'm looking forward to those day one executive orders to see what exactly he plans on doing with them in that regard.
I think those are, I don't know if crypto is going to be his day one executive orders, but absolutely. I mean, he said, drill, baby, drill. He's
right.
gonna open up drilling, and he's gonna absolutely challenge the Biden executive order on the offshore drilling that happened here a couple of weeks ago. You shouldn't use pump and dump with that chick. What do you mean?
I think the phrase, the term.
Hey, she's the one that put herself out there like that, though.
Yeah.
She offered its fair use at this point.
Marketers and advertisers pumped and dumped her real quick.
Yeah. A lot of people did. Oh no, wait, that was a OnlyFans chick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Now, interestingly enough, this comes up in trending today, as I believe it was one of our people watching right now, Iris, who was talking about William Harrison's presidency yesterday. Now, for those of you who don't know, and if I got this wrong on who brought it up, moving the inauguration indoors is absolutely about security. It's absolutely about the cold weather, 100%. Now, people are trying to say, well, it's similar to Harrison's presidency because they're concerned that, Donald Trump's old and frail. He's going to get sick. What conclusions are we going to draw here? And they're trying to put that narrative out there now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they have done that under Biden? I mean, seriously, Biden's always looked old and frail. I mean, he's been politics for 50 years at this point. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen him look young. So that's interesting. I thought that it was hilarious that Michael's testing the waters. Hey, it works. Well, I have to put that up there.
Some relief. It felt good. I had to do it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Shane, you brought it up. I just remember there's a conversation and I couldn't follow it 100%. I apologize. So yeah, dude died of pneumonia giving it his address in the freezing rain. How many ways can people interpret that, right? It's history. It's history. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think Donald Trump would, succumb to that? No, Donald Trump is like an eagle flying in a snowstorm, catching that mouse anyway. I don't know. I was trying to think of something more American, and that was all I came up with.
I don't understand the big deal. Why? Who cares if it's inside or outside? Like, am I missing something here? Am I like if for fear of getting sick and starting off the presidency ill and in bed, like that would suck for everybody.
That shows that somebody's actually thinking and making smart decisions too, by the way. That already says, well, if we did it outside, I could get sick and these bad things could happen. Why would we make that a thing? Let's actually take the time, say, hey, I get it. Everyone wants to be on the National Mall. Nobody actually wants to be on the National Mall in that weather, mind you. Everyone wants to see it. There's another aspect of this is interesting. Remember the last time Trump talked about his crowd size? If he's inside, and everyone knows he's inside, are they going to be on National Mall? Can you talk about crowd size at that point? Because they're there to see the event live happening on the steps.
Yeah.
Ooh, the plot thickens, Michael. Harrison was asked to do it indoors, but he demanded to do it outdoors.
It is what it is. That
maybe the reason this is trending, maybe the reason that's a story is because somebody's wanting to make sure this story gets put in front of Donald Trump, who, again, because he likes the crowd size and he wants to talk about that, who wants to insist that it's outdoors. They're going to say, no, this is the last guy that did that. And you see what happened? Maybe they're doing it as a lesson.
Yeah. I just don't understand who would even be upset about that decision. I feel like if the left is upset that it's being moved indoors, then it's just a further testament to just how truly evil these people are. Like, God forbid the president-elect is mitigating risk after having 2 attempted assassination attempts. Like,
right.
What are you suggesting, right? Are you suggesting that you don't like that they're mitigating risk and making it safer? Well, it's just, I don't know.
I know that when he did his second rally in Butler, my first thoughts were, why would you tempt fate like this? And I'm serious. Why would you? But I understand it had to be done. He had to go back there and give that rally.
Yep.
It was the right move. In this instance, you've got the next 4 years to think about. The right move is to be indoors for safety, for your health, and for any number of reasons. You don't want all of your supporters on the National Mall getting sick either. You want to encourage them to stay indoors where it's safe and warm.
Right.
And it actually kind of disperses the crowd already. So only the truly diehard crazy people are going to be out there, if they are at all. And it reduces the chance of any sort of riot happening.
Yeah.
There's a number of reasons why this is a good move.
Yep. No, it's good.
All right. Well, Michael, even with our best planning of having these stories ready, we're still 10 minutes short.
Yeah. Yeah, and I even touched on the crypto ball. That was kind of like just an odd one.
Yeah, Michael likes talking about balls.
Hey, now. Yeah, I mean, I just genuinely hope that we get a day one that's super strong, that starts moving the ball forward in a trajectory that puts America first. I did happen to listen to Christy Noem's testimony today, um, at her job interview for Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Nailed it, like spot on. I would just be absolutely flabbergasted if she didn't get confirmed, at least for that position. So that was pretty nice to see. Even the Democrats on that panel, they really couldn't grill her. It wasn't a shouting match like other ones have been in the past. Um, there was a lot of respect for both sides to her and from her to everyone else. So we can expect Kristi Noem to be, I think, the whole Secretary of Homeland Security.
Well,
And
as
that
far
point,
as the other hearings that have happened already, I'm genuinely satisfied with the performance of the nominees.
yeah,
Right? You talked about Kristi Noem. She did great. I'm not going to complain about that. I'm not trying to shit on that at all. But
no,
Pam Bondi was great. Adam Schiff doing Adam Schiff things. Tried to, play this narrative. As Attorney General, you can't do this and this and this, and you got to be able to stand up and, really tell the boss to stuff it, blah, 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 right? And he goes, I'm going to ask simply, can you say that Donald Trump lost the election, blah, blah, and all this stuff? It's like, I'm going to follow the evidence.
right.
We're going to
And
investigate where the evidence is.
and it's funny, I feel like it was just last week Tim was saying that the reason why he could never be in office is because he would get on that stand and say, I ain't playing your horse and pony show. I'm not falling for your gotcha moments, blah, blah, blah. Pam Bondi literally did that. I'm going to paraphrase here, but she said to an effect like, I'm not here to waste time with your grandstanding and gotcha, right? Like,
Yeah.
badass, absolutely badass. Stop giving them those inches because they just keep taking and taking and taking. You got to put the foot down. We've compromised way too much. It's their turn to make compromises. Like the left, they do not compromise. They do not compromise so much so that they will toss out their best friend of years for having a slight difference of opinion on any particular subject. That's how uncompromising they are. The party of the tolerant left, that's not the case anymore. It's the opposite. Stop giving these people so much space to have their way and bully. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So Pam Bondi nailed it by basically putting her foot down despite being the subject of the questioning and saying, I ain't playing that game. So I hope that she takes that same tenacity into that position.
Well, I'm actually, I was thrilled with her testimony there. I'm not mad about Kristi Noem's. Even Peter Hegseth was generally good.
Yeah.
I didn't have any issues there. The one I'm actually really anticipating is Kash Patel.
Yes. That's going to be a difficult one for the anti-Kash Patel people. I think Kash Patel is not only smart and well articulated, he understands more so than anyone else that's been on that bench so far the art of manipulation, the use of words. Like you'll notice, especially during Kristi Noem's. Kristi Noem knows that these people, these Democrats, they have 7 minutes to ask their questions, and she will take what could easily be like a 3-second answer and make it a minute long by just adding a bunch of filler words on purpose, right? Kash Patel, and that works on the same flip side, right? I think they're going to have a hard time with Kash Patel, and I think he's going to really enrage the left that are asking questions, but then the people like us who are going to watch it are going to be just like, hell yeah. I think that's going to be a good one. You're right.
All right. Well, we are getting to that time where we want to wind stuff up. Guys, that this isn't it for us for the weekend, or at least it's not for me. Um, for any of you who do follow him, Tom McDonald released a new song today featuring Roseanne Barr. I will be reacting to that, and it should be uploaded tomorrow sometime. That's coming up. I might even find another news article to talk about. I don't know yet. But Michael, you got a weekend ahead of you. Time to reflect, play some games, do all that
Right.
fun stuff. What are your final thoughts for today? Send people off in the right direction.
I'm gonna, the TikTok ban is a really good opportunity to talk about gratitude again, right? People are going to be livid when is no longer accessible on their phones, which is all the reason why practicing gratitude is so important, right? Understanding how you even have it, understanding what you're grateful for and why, right? That's the most important part there is you can say, I'm grateful for my bed because I can sleep in it. But why do you have a bed? What did you do to acquire a bed? Did you buy it? Where did you get the money from? Going down that rabbit hole of gratitude helps foster a positive mental state all around. And as you build that positive mental state, other things become easier in your life, like managing to get off your ass and go to the gym, or even start making better health decisions with your diet. So I just recommend everyone do that. And then also hunt the good. Something I picked up in the Army, hunt the good. Write 5 things down at the end of the day, every single day, about what happened that was good, either to you or just witnessing out in public. I helped an old lady put her cart back today because she was loading her car with groceries. That's a good thing. It was good for her. But just kind of identify 5 good things, get in the habit of that, because we're always succumbed by negativity, by the news, and everything else around us. It's important to also identify positive things in our lives.
I agree with all of that. Get fit, eat healthy, do all the things that are good for you because we want you to enjoy the next 4 years. We want you
Mm-hmm.
to be able to appreciate the things that are going to be happening for us as a whole. I know there's a lot of people on the left who see the next 4 years and they see that it's going to be the worst time ever. And you know what? For them, it might actually be. You know, they're used to things being done a certain way. They're used to the woke mind virus or DEI culture thriving to where they can get away with doing a lot of dumb shit that wouldn't fly in a normal society and shouldn't. Those things are coming to an end, and we're going to see that on full display over the next 4 years. And it all starts with the things happening on Monday. Uh, other than that, guys, stay humble. That goes along with that practice gratitude. Be mindful of the things that you've got and be humble about the gifts that you receive in this world. We can't take those things for granted. And finally, the most important message I have as we end every day, guys, remember, all these things are great, but don't forget, let's go fishing. We'll
That's
see
right.
you later. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, the episode was a surprising one. The news usually is. If you want to follow us and get more content from us, you can follow us at Quiet Part Pod at YouTube, Quiet Part Pod on Rumble, at Real Chris Noski on X. And of course, right here, YouTube is going to show you videos that they think you might like because you're already watching this one. Again, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time.